Welcome to this walkthrough guide on how to create professional diagrams with Napkin AI. You know that moment when you've written something, a process, a plan, a strategy, and you look at it and think, this makes total sense in my head, but no one else is going to read this. You know, walls of text, bullet points stacked on bullet points. People tend to scroll straight past it, nod politely, and then move on without actually understanding what you were trying to say. Well, that is the gap that Napkin AI is designed to close. I've been using it since the early beta days, and it's now out of beta and fully launched. So today I'm going to walk you through the whole thing from scratch, how it works, and what it can actually do. So let's get into it. So before we dive into the hands-on demo, let me give you a quick overview of what Napkin AI actually is, because it works a bit differently to most other AI tools. Most AI tools are about generating text. Napkin AI flips that. You bring the text and it generates the visuals for you. The core idea is pretty simple. You write or paste your content, highlight the bit that you want to visualize, and Napkin converts it into a diagram, flowchart, infographic, mind map, comparison table, whatever makes the most sense for what you have written. It reads the relationships in your text and picks the right visual format. And it doesn't require any prompting. You're not needing to write, please create a flowchart of the following 5 steps. You simply just highlight the text, click a button, and it figures it out. Now, let's actually use it. Alright, let's head to napkin.ai. I'll have it linked in the description below for you, and you can sign up for free, no credit card required. Create your account with either your email address or a Google account, and you're set up in about 30 seconds. Now, when you first land on the page after signing in, the screen is honestly about as minimal as it gets. Right there in the center, there's a single button, New Napkin. That is your starting point. Click it and you'll get a little wizard that gives you 4 ways to kick things off. The first option is to paste in existing content. Say you've already got something written, you just drop it straight in. Second is to describe your idea, which is more of that visual prompting approach if you want Napkin to help you generate some starting text. Third is to import an existing file. So say you have a document, a presentation, maybe even a social media post, and you can pull that in directly. And fourth is just to start from blank if you'd rather type everything out yourself. For this demo, we're going to go with paste, because the fastest way to see what Napkin can do is to give it something to work with straight away. So I'll click that and then hit Command V on Mac or Control V on Windows and paste in some content. And that's going to take us straight into the editor and into the core workflow, which I'll walk you through now. One quick thing though before we do, once you've got a napkin open, you'll notice 2 buttons in the top left corner, New Napkin, which creates yet another new one, and Library, which opens up this side pane where you can see all your existing napkins live. You can easily jump between them from there at any point, so it's super easy to manage multiple projects without losing your place. Alright, now let's get into it. So we've got our text sitting in the canvas here, a 5-step employee onboarding process. Normally, this would live in a document and no one would ever read it. Now, watch what happens though when I highlight this text. See that little icon that appears next to the selected text? Well, that's what they call the spark icon, and it's basically the turn this into a visual button. So go ahead and click it. Napkin reads the text, works out that there's a sequential process here, and within a few seconds, it generates a set of visual options. Now, here is how the selection part works, and it's worth paying attention because it's quite nicely done. You've got the diagram preview on the right, and on the left, you've got the AI's suggested layouts. You don't need to click anything in order to preview them, just simply hover your mouse over each one and the diagram in your document will update in real time. So you can see exactly what it will look like before you commit to anything. Now, if none of these AI suggestions are quite right, you can hit the See More button to expand the options, or you can scroll down and drill down by category. There's a whole list. There's mind maps, process, data, timelines, comparison business frameworks, brainstorming, you name it. And each one of them has a bunch of specific layouts inside it. Now, it has the same hover behavior here as well. Simply mouse over any of them and the diagram will update live. And once you've found a layout that you like and click on it, you then get a second layer of choices. The same layout in different color schemes and design treatments. So some will have solid filled colors, some will be outline only, some will use a highlighted accent color. You pick the one that fits what you're going for. And if you want complete control over the colors, like if you're building something that needs to match your brand, there's a brand studio option in here too. That is a pro feature, and I will cover it properly a bit later, but the short version is that you can set up your own color palettes and they'll always be available whenever you're picking a visual style. Once it's set up, you just grab your brand scheme and go. For now though, I'm going to pick this layout here. And there it is, our process turned into a proper diagram. That took, realistically, maybe about 15 seconds total. Now, let me show you why this is smarter than just generating a static image though. One of the features that Napkin calls elastic design is that your diagram stays connected to your text. So if you update the content, you can push those changes straight through to the visual without having to regenerate it from scratch. Let me show you. I'm going to go back into the text here and rename step 3. So I'm going to change orientation to company induction. Now I'll click on the diagram to select it. Now when I do this, you'll see a small options bar appear on the right-hand side. You've got controls in there for colors, fonts, size, swapping the layout, swapping the branding. But the one I want to show you is this button right here, Sync with Text. That's Napkin telling you that it's detected changes in the underlying text, so your diagram is no longer in sync. Just click that button and you'll see a small updating visual indicator appear while it processes. Takes just a couple of seconds, but then the label in your diagram has now been updated to match the text. Now, if you haven't made any changes to the text, that sync button will be grayed out because obviously there's nothing to update. This is a super clean way to work. You can keep refining your text freely and then push the updates to the visuals whenever you're ready, rather than having to regenerate everything from scratch. Now, Napkin also isn't just flowcharts. It understands a wide range of content structures and can generate the right visuals for each one. Let me show you a few different types. If I paste in some text that's comparing two different approaches, let's say comparing two marketing strategies, and I select and hit the spark icon, you'll notice that the suggestions it gives me are now comparison oriented. So comparison tables, side-by-side layouts, maybe even a Venn diagram. It reads that versus structure in the text. But maybe if I put in something a little bit more conceptual, say a central idea with some related branches, it may well suggest mind maps, concept maps, or radial layouts. If the text describes a repeating cycle, like maybe a 4-stage feedback loop, well, you'll probably get a circular flow diagram. And if you've got data, numbers, percentages, stats, it'll offer charts and graph layouts. Napkin has over 30 visual types in its library, and the AI just gets better at picking the right one the more structured your text is. Big tip here though, short, clear sentences with explicit relationships, such as step 1, step 2, or option A versus option B, those give Napkin the clearest signal and tend to produce the best outputs. There's also been a meaningful expansion of design templates since the beta, so there's more variety than ever in how the finished visuals will look. Right, now you've got your visual. Let's talk a little bit more about customization. And I'm going to start with the icons before we look at anything else. Once your diagram is generated, each element will have an icon that Napkin has chosen based on what the text says. They're usually pretty reasonable, but if you want to change one, just click on the icon itself. When you do, you'll notice a little spark icon appears above it. Click that, and you'll get to see a set of AI recommended icons for that element, suggestions based on what it represents. Hover over any of them for a preview, and if nothing fits, there's also a search field where you can search across Napkin's full icon library. Now, once the icons are where you want them, Let's take a look at the rest of the customization options. These all tend to live in the right-hand panel when you have your diagram selected. Colors first. You'll see the color swatches for each element, such as the background or any of the nodes, the connectors, the labels. Click on any swatch to change it. You'll get a color picker, and if you've got specific hex codes, you can even enter them in directly. Then we have fonts. You can set the typeface for titles, labels, and descriptions independently. So if you want different fonts for different parts of the visual, that's all in there. And then size. This is where you control the aspect ratio for the whole diagram. There are presets for most of the common use cases, so 16:9 for a presentation slide, 1:1 for a square, or 4:5 for Instagram. There's also an option to resize the graphic to fit the frame. So if you specifically need a square diagram, it'll reflow everything inside to fill that shape. And finally, you can swap out the entire layout from here, so same content but completely different visual structure. This is useful if you've generated one thing, but you want to try a different format without starting over. And if you want all of your visuals to consistently look on brand without manually matching colors every single time, there's a Brand Studio feature built right in, and you can access it from the Brand Studio icon in the top corner. Hit Add New Brand, and you've got two ways to set up your palette. The first is manual, right? You can enter in the hex codes directly for primary, secondary, and accent colors. The second, which I'll show you, is to upload an image. This could be your logo or a branded header or anything with your colors in it. Napkin automatically detects the dominant colors and builds out your palette from there. I'll browse and upload an image here, and there we go. You can see that it's pulled the main colors out automatically. From there, you move across to fonts. You can set separate typefaces for titles, labels, and descriptions. And if your brand uses a specific font, you can even pick from Google Fonts or upload your own font file directly. Once everything's set, Napkin will generate your brand style and then give you a bunch of previews to show you what the different design options will look like. Once you've saved it, it then becomes one of your defaults, and it's available anytime you're generating or editing any visuals. Alright, let's now get your visuals out of Napkin. So with the diagram selected, head to the right-hand panel, and you'll notice there's an Export Visual button in there. Click it and you'll get a pop-up with 4 different format options: PNG, SVG, PDF, and PowerPoint. PNG is your standard image file, right? Great for dropping into documents, presentations, emails, or social posts. There's also a toggle for a transparent background, which is handy if you're placing this visual over a colored slide or a branded layout. PNG export is available on the free plan. SVG is a vector format which scales to any size without losing quality, so it's ideal for handing off to a designer or for using the visual across multiple different sizes. PDF works well for documents and reports, but the one worth spending a little moment on is PowerPoint, because this is actually pretty impressive. I'll export this image here as a PPTX file and open it up. And take a look at this. The elements are all fully editable. I can click on individual boxes and change the text. I can move things around. The diagram hasn't been flattened into an image. It's actual PowerPoint shapes. So if you need to make a last-minute change before a presentation, you don't have to go back into Napkin and re-export. You just open up the file in PowerPoint and edit it directly, exactly like any other slide element. That is honestly genuinely useful. Now, a quick note on sharing. Just like most online tools, you can share your napkins with other people and give them edit or view access. There's also inline commenting too, so collaborators can leave notes directly on specific elements rather than sending you a separate message. Honestly, it covers the basics pretty well. And before we wrap up, what does the free plan actually get you? Well, you get 500 AI credits per week. Each credit is roughly the equivalent to 1 word of selected text, so most diagrams will land somewhere between 40 and 150 credits. That works out to about 3 to 10 diagrams per week, which for occasional use is genuinely enough. The main limitations are that your exported visuals will have Napkin's branding on them, and PowerPoint and SVG exports are locked to the paid plans. but PNG and PDF are free, and the core text-to-visual engine is fully available. So honestly, it's worth just signing up and seeing how far the free plan gets you before deciding whether you need more. And that is Napkin AI. So whether you're building a report, pulling together a presentation, explaining a process, or just trying to make complex information easier to follow, anywhere you'd normally reach for a wall of text, this is probably worth trying instead. So set up your free account at napkin.ai. As mentioned earlier, I've linked it below. Now get out there and start making some diagrams, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to check out the channel. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.